Small businesses would come to us and say, "Hey, we want to do business with Keurig Dr Pepper. We want to do business with Contact. We want to do business with BMW plant Spartanburg." But when you begin to unpack to them what that really requires and what they need to do, they are not even close to being ready. So what we did is we hired the recently retired supply readiness person at BMW plant Spartanburg, and she has been helping small business get ready to do business with big business, and
Wow.
results are off the charts.
This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community. Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and here on the podcast, I introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. You're joining us today for a special episode in our 2026 ACCE Chamber of the Year Finalist Series. And today, we're joined by Alan Smith, President and CEO of OneSpartanberg Inc. A native of Greenville, North Carolina, Alan began his career in local government before moving into chamber leadership with the Greenville-Pitt County Chamber of Commerce. He later served as president and CEO of the Greater Greer Chamber, where he helped drive financial strength and membership growth. Since 2014, Alan has led the Spartanburg organization through major transformation, including the launch of OneSpartanberg Inc., a comprehensive community and economic development strategy designed to build a more vibrant region through business, economic, and tourism development. Alan's work reflects a deep commitment to community leadership, regional collaboration, and long-term growth for Spartanburg. Alan, welcome back to Chamber Chat Podcast. First of all, huge congratulations to you and your team for being selected as a Chamber of the Year finalist again. And I'd love to give you an opportunity to say hello to everyone out there listening and share something interesting about yourself so we can get to know you a little better.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be back. I really do. And I think it's such a valuable service. And so I'm grateful to you that you do this, and just incredibly grateful to be back in the U.S. Chamber of the Year space again. We won in 2021. We haven't applied since. And so we decided, hey, look, we've had a really good run. So let's put an application together. And, thanks to our partners, our team, and just a willing community. Here we are again. And it's very humbling, particularly when you consider, the Greater Des Moines Partnership and the Mobile Chamber of Commerce. They're the other two finalists. So we find ourselves in very good and elite company. So delighted to be with you today.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yes,
So
we need that.
that's where I have to really think, because I think any of our chamber leaders that are listening, there's not a lot of time for interesting things or hobbies in this space, particularly when you have two young daughters. And so I'm girl dad. I guess that's the interesting thing about me. I'm all in. Painted toenails, painted fingernails. If they want to do it, they want to fix my hair, they want to put makeup on, I'm all in. Life is short, time's fleeting, and I would rather my hobby be them than something without them.
Yeah, I love that. That means you're doing it right. So awesome.
Trying every day. It's a learning process. And when I get it wrong, they will tell me.
They'll let you know. That's right.
That's right.
Well, for those listening, help us understand OneSpartanberg Inc. Help us understand the organization, the scope of work you're involved with, staff, budget, just to kind of set the stage for our discussion today.
Sure. Well, you alluded to it earlier in the bio. So in September of 2020, we took our countywide chamber, countywide economic development, countywide tourism, and consolidated it all into one organization. In fact, we renovated the whole building with that consolidation in mind. So it's one of the few places in the country where a chamber specialist or chamber expert is sitting right next to an economic development expert. So you might have somebody championing small business sitting right next to someone that's working on tourism. And then about 18 months ago, we said we need to make talent our fourth vertical as well. So business, economic, tourism, and talent development all under the same umbrella. We're about 33 FTEs, about 7 1099s, including our foundation. We're coming up on a budget of $10 million. Incredibly blessed to be in this community, the third fastest growing MSA in the country. 29 people a day are moving to Spartanburg County. That's about 10,600 net new residents a year. So it's an exciting time to be in Spartanburg County. Obviously, growth comes with some challenges as well, but
Yeah.
I will take those problems over the alternative. So again, just very blessed to be here in this community and particularly under this model. I really can't imagine doing it any differently than the way we do it here now that we've been under this umbrella now for 6 years.
Yeah. So I mentioned before we hit record that a couple weeks ago I had Matt Pavarnik on the show at Myrtle Beach and talked about the new collaborative that they formed there in Myrtle Beach. And he referenced OneSpartanberg Inc. a couple of times in that episode. Obviously, hold you guys in high regard with the model that you have. And it's something for the right communities to look at and see how you guys are executing and bringing everything together and having that synergy and focus to help further develop your community. So you're doing something right there.
Well, I appreciate that and appreciate Matt's kind words as well. We are so happy that he's in the state of South Carolina.
Yeah. Well, on these Chamber of the Year episodes, what I like to do is spend the majority of our time talking about the programs that you guys submitted on your Chamber of the Year application. So we'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll dive into those programs and learn more about the impact you guys are driving there in Spartanburg.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Rose.
And we're the founders of At My Community, a mobile app that can be customized to meet the unique needs of your Chamber of Commerce.
When we started At My Community, we envisioned a tool that would help communities thrive by simplifying communication and enhancing engagement. Chambers of Commerce face unique challenges, and we're here to help you tackle them.
At My Community helps the Evergreen Area Chamber of Commerce to create an app that keeps tourists informed even when their office is closed. They provide 24/7 access to local business information, which helps support the local economy and community engagement.
In Rocky Mountain House, we helped Rocky Chamber create an app with dynamic itineraries and digital resources for tourists, increasing local business engagement. The app has become an essential tool for the community, promoting events and boosting visibility for local merchants.
Today, we empower more than 200 chambers of commerce, campgrounds, and RV resorts to streamline communication, informing members about events, sharing business updates, and providing a digital hub for the community, all in one convenient app.
When you partner with At My Community, our team works closely with you to create an app that meets your chamber's unique needs. As your community grows, our app evolves with you. We are here to ensure you engage effectively with your members and streamline your operations.
Schedule a demo today at atmycommunity.com.
We can't wait to meet you.
Are you ready to take your organization's funding to the next level? Hi, I'm Clint Neesmith, CEO of Resource Development Group. As a Chamber of Commerce or Economic Development Organization leader, I know you understand the value of working with experts who understand your world. And that's exactly what RDG does best. For over 30 years, RDG has specialized in fundraising for EDOs and chambers. We bring cutting-edge strategies tailored to your organization, whether you're just starting out or gearing up for yet another new funding cycle. Importantly, our firm executives are hands-on from start to finish, from the feasibility study to the successful conclusion of your fundraising campaign, and our team brings deep industry roots and national expertise to every engagement. No matter the size of your community, RDG delivers data-driven, innovative revenue solutions, reinforcing ROI to investors and making sure your vision becomes reality. At RDG, we proudly build organizations that build communities. Visit us today at rdgfundraising.com and let us partner with you, building a stronger future for your organization and the community you are working to grow and develop.
All right, Alan, we're back. As I mentioned before the break, we're going to dive into the programs that you submitted on your Chamber of the Year application. If you would just give us an idea what those programs are, and then we can dive into them in a little bit more detail.
Well, it's interesting. Our vision plan 1.0, which is a 5-year community and economic development strategy, 2.0, which is a 5-year community economic development strategy. Now we're developing 3.0, which is a 5-year community and economic development strategy. So 15 years when we're done with 3.0. And it is eerie how well it aligns with the Horizons Initiative. And when you look at Redegree and Power Up and Edge, all three of those programs I align quite well with the industry's vision for the industry, and then of course with our vision plan. And so first, Redegree. So we have economic development house here, as we spoke about. One of the things that we need to do in Spartanburg is diversify our economic development approach. Our bread and butter is advanced manufacturing, but if you want to diversify your economic development approach, you need to raise your education attainment levels. And so the quickest way to do that is to engage those people that have some college and no degree. And we've discovered there's about 55,000 people that started their higher ed pursuit and life got in the way. Somebody got sick in the family, there was a financial hardship, whatever it may be, they had to stop and they never really went back. And that's sad, but you can reverse that story, and that's what Redegree is doing. So thanks to a partnership with the Spartanburg Academic Movement and Movement 2030, we launched Redegree less than 3 years ago, and the scale has been tremendous. I say less than 3 years. It's actually been 2 years and 2 months. 1,703 people have inquired about Redegree, but most importantly, 502 individuals have re-enrolled and 74 have graduated either with a credential, associate's degree, or bachelor's degree. And again, that's a very short amount of time. We believe that we're really hitting scale. And so we think about in any community, if 500 new people were going back to college, that would be like adding a small institution in your community and having a freshman class. And so that scale, we also know that this population, if left to their own devices, has a 2% chance of returning to college. So
Wow.
if you're doing that math, 1,700 people that have started the process and 500 have re-enrolled, we're all over 30% actually re-enrolling. So that tells us that our interventions, our hand-holding, we're getting people across the line to re-enroll. And so that's Redegree. Under Talent is Edge, which is our work-based learning program. We've engaged more than 120 employers. And since this thing kicked off 2 years ago, we've created 1,041 work-based learning opportunities. And that's the new fancy way to say internships. But we believe that that's incredibly important with 7 institutions of higher learning. If we can ignite something in a junior or senior high school student and they can find an applicable program here locally, we have a really good shot of keeping them. If you've got that job at the end of the educational pursuit, you're much more likely to stay in the community. So delighted with the scale the Edge has produced in a really short amount of time. And then Power Up was launched in April of 2023. We got some data through our visioning process. It wasn't too good. Small businesses were not starting and growing at a rate comparable to our peers or on a national average. Furthermore, Black-owned businesses were starting and growing at about half the national average, which sadly is the case all across South Carolina. So, chambers forever on supporting small businesses, but we really wanted to do something differentiating and scaled. Not having a program where 12 or 15 businesses went through it, give them a plaque, have a banquet, and celebrate what we've done to help small businesses. We really needed scale. And so we went to the county, and fortunately, the county had just gotten American Rescue Plan dollars. And they said, we believe this. We're the best in the nation at recruiting big businesses. Our levels of investment indicate as much. But we want to be the best at starting and growing small businesses as well. So they entrusted us with a $6.5 million grant. We put our own resources with it. And since April of 2023, 2,538 small businesses have filled out intake forms. 66% have engaged, which means they have taken advantage of 2 or more of our offerings. And let me speak to our offerings. In 3 years, we've deployed $4.1 million of grants and loans in the community. Talk about, these are like 3.9 type products. So beating the private sector. These businesses would not be able to get that product in the private sector. 50 6 new small businesses have started. The small businesses we've been working with have created 234 new jobs. And this one's a big one. We have been very successful at recruiting big businesses, but we would hear all the time, small businesses would come to us and say, hey, we want to do business with Corey Dr. Pepper. We want to do business with Contact. We want to do business with BMW plant Spartanburg. But when you begin to unpack to them what that really requires and what they need to do, they are not even close to being ready. So what we did is we hired the recently retired supply readiness person at BMW plant Spartanburg, and she has been helping small business get ready to do business with big business. And
Wow.
results are off the chart. So in 3 years, she's helped small businesses secure $15.1 million in contracts with these big businesses. And so this whole power up movement really is just starting, 3 years old, a whole team dedicated to that. So we're very excited about the potential that Power Up brings small businesses all across Spartanburg County. We've actually had 1,400 inquiries from 25 states of small businesses that wanted to take advantage of Power Up, and we had to say, you are welcome to do that, but you got to move to Spartanburg County.
That's right. I love that. And man, what an impact. I think you said 15.1 million in contracts to new local businesses there, and being able to have that money stay in the community versus going, somewhere out of state or maybe overseas for some of those contracts. Who knows where they were fulfilling those contracts before? But that's a huge impact in the community. And I love that with each one of these examples, you have the numbers down to the exact number of businesses that inquired, new businesses that have started, the number of internships that, I forgot what the new fancy word was for the internships, but the number of internships that were started or created, and the number of people with the Redegree. So I'm curious how you went about finding the information for Redegree to be able to see how many people there were in the community that had some college but not a degree associated with it. Where were you able to look for that information and pull that data together?
Well, first of all, a little tip, I guess, if they want to call it a tip, maybe it isn't, but I believe it is. And I always talk to our team about this. You mentioned specific numbers.
Yes.
One of my pet peeves is when somebody says more than 1,000 or over 500, you don't seem very credible. And so I tell our team all the time, like 508, 1,211. Like, that shows hey, we're real time. We're tracking this. So I think you have so much credibility when you use the exact number. So thanks for pointing that out. We identified the Redegree number through a talent gap analysis with Lightcast. And we've done a talent gap analysis now every 2 years. They're not cheap, but they're well worth it because the talent market in your community is literally changing monthly. And so, how can you come up with programs? How can you develop things like Edge and Redegree if you really don't know what the needs are, the opportunities are, the gaps are, so on and so forth. And so one of the things that they pointed out is, hey, if you're trying to raise education attainment quickly, you got 55,000 people that already have some credits in their back pocket. That's the audience that you need to be reaching.
So I'm going to go back to, again, with the specifics that you shared. It goes to tell the story too of the chamber and the impact that you're making. When you can say that there's been 74 graduates that have completed a degree through the Redegree program, those are households that are being changed. It's life-changing to be able to have a degree, to be able to further your career, to change the economic situation for the families, and to be able to tie dollar amounts back to whether it's the number of contracts that are being brought back through the Power Up program. It really shows that, without the chamber, what would the community be like? If OneSpartanberg Inc. wasn't there, it'd be a huge void, and you guys are making a huge impact. So the specifics and being able to show that direct impact are huge. What are we missing with these 3 programs? You hit high level, and I know you can probably talk for an hour each on both of these, but what are some of those things that really stand out as far as the differences being made and the impact that you're seeing through these programs?
We didn't even speak on, and because we didn't include this as part of our application, and maybe we should have, but last year was a record year for us in terms of new investment. $3.5 billion in new investment, 1,124 new jobs. So, you talk about impacting people and families. 1,124 new jobs is a good measure of that. Another metric related to Power Up was our Access to Space initiative, and that's not like NASA or going up in space. This is actual access to physical
On the ground. Yeah.
yeah, on the ground physical space. So, all across America, there's different municipalities that have boarded up storefronts and so on and so forth. And so our Access to Space initiative, we engaged, and again, this one's relatively new, but we engaged a lot of those landlords and we said, hey, look, if we were to get you a promising tenant and subsidized their lease for 6 months and then scale it down from 7 to 12, would you be willing to upfit your building? And we've had great success in that regard. We've placed 12 small businesses in storefronts that, quite frankly, have been idle for years. And so we see that gaining some steam as well. We're about to build a little incubator village at the start of one of our trails in downtown. So think cargo containers with promising small businesses in it, and it'll be programmed. So, with music and all kinds of different events. So people will be driven to it. So Access to Space is just a part of the general overall offerings of Power Up Spartanburg.
Yeah, I love that idea. The whole access to space. A while back, I had a guest on the show and we talked about doing empty building tours to be able to get people out and visualize the space in some of these empty buildings. But the approach that you're taking, going directly to the landlord and saying, we can bring somebody to you if you can make the building something that could be worthwhile to host a business in here. We can help make sure that you're getting paid, you're getting your rent, and helping to make that transition, I think, is a
Yeah,
very
I
smart
tell you,
way.
you mentioned people, real people, and stories. And this is a great story. Puddin, Pudd''N. This is a guy that had a pudding business, all kinds of different flavors. And there was a storefront that hadn't seen a tenant in years, and it was is literally contiguous to a railroad that went right across the main street in one of our smaller towns. And the train always, every day, clogs traffic, for 25 minutes. And so we talked to him about this space, and I said, you worry about the train? He said, no. He had a whole plan for when the cars get backed up by the train, they'll have somebody out there in the pudding, uniform with order forms, basically
Yeah,
customers. So I love that approach, and I'm glad we were able to activate that space in Duncan, South Carolina.
that's awesome. It's just like a drive-through line, right? You just go out and take your order like you're at Chick-fil-A or something.
Well,
So,
and you didn't choose to be there, so
yeah, that's right.
you're captive.
That's right. I love that example. So, what I like asking on behalf of those listening who are interested in taking their organization up to the next level, what kind of tip or action item might you share with them as they strive to accomplish that goal?
Well, I'm humbled that you would ask that question. I mean, we've got a long way to go here, but I've learned, I think the difference between good organizations and great organizations in our industry are those that have left activity and moved to performance. We don't even have a golf tournament. We're not talking about attendance at last month's event was up. We're not saying we have more golf tournament sponsors and things like that. Those are activities that support the organization, which are important, but you need to move to performance metrics that support the community. And we have that conversation all the time in this building. Is this initiative really about, supporting our organization, or is this really about supporting our community and the people that live in it and the businesses that are hoping to thrive here? And I understand, you got to put fuel in the tank, you got to have gas in the car, you got to drive revenue, understand all those things, but less of this and more of that, and the revenue will come.
Yeah. In fact, I just last week did a presentation on that very thing at a chamber conference. We talked about those events and programs, often they can be that, using the engine analogy, kind of like the pull string. Think of a lawnmower. It's that initial effort, but then after that, you have to show your value. You have to be able to tell the story, what the chamber's doing, drive the impact, and the revenue comes, the sponsorship comes, all those things come. But like you said, less of those things and more of those impactful things that are going to really make a difference. So I
That's right.
love that you put that out there. I like to ask everyone I have on the show as well about your outlook for the future of chambers. How do you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward?
Well, that's a great question because we're in this rapid time of change, and you know, I can speak on behalf of this organization, and I know that this is the case across the country. Those of us in high growth areas, it's become very challenging because you're viewed. It's a perception. It's not true, but you're viewed as the entity driving all the growth, and growth is bad. And so it's
Until it's
making
not happening.
yeah, well, exactly. And, in the book of Revelations, it talks about what's up is down, what's down is up. And these days seem that way sometimes when you're literally defending the creation of jobs. So it's a challenging time to be in this industry. But I think that also speaks to the essential nature of what we do as well. I mean, we serve the people whether they know it or not. I mean, there are thousands, literally thousands of people in our communities that benefit from the work they do, whether they like us or not, or whether they know that our work has benefited them and their families. I think the future of chambers, particularly the standalone ones that don't have, maybe they don't have economic development or tourism, it's in advocacy. I really believe that's where their relevancy is because you're in a unique space. If you're not going to be the voice of business, and then who is? And that can be pretty scary because taking a position on an issue is going to win you some friends and it's going to win you some enemies. But progress never comes without criticism. And so you can't be afraid, to get in that space. At the end of the day, you're the business community's only hope. And that's the way I look at it. I have a little poster that says 381,000. That's the population of Spartanburg County. I have 381,000 reasons to do what I do, and our team thinks about it the same way. And so, it's going to change. The work's going to ebb and flow. The external conditions will change, but the essential nature of our organizations, I think, will remain a constant.
Well, to your point, when you're helping to spark the ideas for 2,538 businesses and help stand up 56 new small businesses and create 234 new jobs and help connect 15.1 million in contracts with some of these bigger companies. I would argue that a lot of the people in the community don't know the role that the chamber has to do with that, but it's driving income into their homes, into their households. It's creating jobs. It's providing a lifestyle for them that they wouldn't have otherwise. So you guys are making a huge impact, whether or not the average person in the community knows it. But I think it's a great response to the future of chambers and need to be driving that growth and employment. Alan, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any contact information for listeners who may want to reach out and connect and learn more about how you guys are doing things there at OneSpartanberg Inc. Where would you point them and what would be the best way to connect?
Sure. And again, I'm happy to help. We don't have all the answers, but if someone reaches out, maybe we can figure it out together. My email address is asmith@onespartanberginc.com. That's ONE Spartanberginc.com, not the number. And my phone number is 252-327-0069, 252-327-0069. And I welcome any feedback, questions, comments. Be great.
That's perfect. We'll get it all in our show notes and make it easy to connect. But this has been great having you back on the show. For those who are interested in going back and checking out some of the previous episodes, Alan was on back in episode 136 as a Chamber of the Year finalist, and they won Chamber of the Year in 2021, and also back in episode 107. So back in the early days of the podcast, but he always brings great value to the show. So it's been a pleasure having you back on today. Thank you for setting aside some time and sharing these great programs and impact that you guys are driving there in the Spartanburg area. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. And I hope I've improved each time. I don't know. The jury may still be out.
Leave it to the listeners to find out.
That's right.
If you are a chamber professional, be sure to subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast on your favorite podcast app or now on YouTube, so you never miss a new episode. New episodes are released each week and delivered right to you. If you're finding value in the podcast, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really helps others discover the show. And most importantly, share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues in the industry so we can continue to grow and strengthen the chamber community together.
One thing I see over and over with chambers is a big focus on talent attraction and workforce development. But what often gets overlooked is retention. That's where Mike Conn really brings something different to the table.
When you invest in people, you know what happens? Their leadership increases exponentially. And when you help leadership increase exponentially on an individual level, an organizational level, a community level, then the culture just gets better and better and better.
Mike gives businesses practical tools to build stronger culture, improve communication, and actually keep the great people they've worked so hard to attract. If you're looking for a way to bring real tangible value to your members through workforce and talent retention, and even earn some non-dues revenue in the process, then what Mike has to offer is a game changer. To learn more, visit chamberchatpodcast.com/Mike Conn to learn more about all that Mike has to offer.